All right, welcome to another episode of Duck It. Today we host the Misfits. We got Ross, we got Nader, and we got Issa. Thanks for coming here, guys.
Thank you.
So obviously, topic of the day, we kind of got another kind of reminder of a great campaign that we did together in 2016 when we relaunched the Careem brand. Elon Musk decided to give us a kind of nod of approval. Well, not on purpose, I think, but kind of tweeted out about us. So that was kind of cool. So no better time to have you guys back on and talk about, how that ad came to be, how that creative concept came to be. So yeah, thanks for coming on, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
So yeah, I'd love to kind of tell the story of how it all came together. I'll kind of introduce it so people have a bit of context. At that time, I had just jumped into a new role at Careem. I had just taken over the marketing organization, I think a couple of months or like a month prior. And I had just gotten married to Nadia, my wife. And we were tasked with launching the rebrand of Careem. And we had an agency that was working on some stuff without naming the agency. But we had an agency that was working on some stuff for the content. We had a brand reveal creative concept. And when I came into the role, we started looking at that content and we decided that it was pretty shit and that we were going to start from scratch. And I remember one night I was, not to sound weird, but I was in bed with my wife and she was on Facebook and she saw an ad that you guys did. And obviously my wife knows Nader from working together in the past. And we saw a video of, what was it? It was the Visa ad, I think. And it was an ostrich on like a or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I remember that night my wife was like, oh, do you know these guys, the Misfits? Oh, one of my friends is a part of them. Check out this video. She showed me the video and I'm like, oh, that's exactly who the fuck we need to talk to. Somebody a little bit different. And then I Facebooked, I think Nader. I'm like, hey Nader, we need to catch up.
I think you Facebooked the group as well,
Yeah.
like Facebook the Misfits page.
Yeah, Misfits, I think.
Yeah, and I'm like, hey guys, we'd love to talk to you. We have a secret cool project or some shit. And then I think we spoke like the next day or something. And then you guys came in. I remember we had like a rush meeting at Careem. I remember.
Can I tell you this part? Because it was a good part. Because I was telling somebody yesterday. It was cool, man. It was a cool experience for us as well. Like because we were so used to working with like the traditional clients. Walk into a Nestle or a 7-Up. It's all corporate. This bald guy with a tie usually. Nothing against bald people. So we walk into Careem. So we got this message on Facebook, and the guy said, "I'm the VP of marketing. Can we meet up?" So and so, and we get there. And the office is just chaotic, man. It's like 500 people. There's no offices. There's just people. It was like Wall Street on steroids. Just people everywhere, man. Somebody on the floor, somebody on beanbags. And you see people grabbing each other like, hey, you free? I'm free. You want to do this here now? You're like, oh, shit, they're going to fight. And then they're like, it was just random, man. And I was like, what's going on? Why is it so crazy? Because, that's just the startup energy, and it was very different for us as well, I think. And then somebody said, who are you guys looking for? We were like, looking for Chris, the VP of marketing. And he's like, all right, follow me. We got to look for him. I was like, all right, shit. Like, doesn't he have an office? Like, he's somewhere. He's everywhere. And then we eventually find him. He's with a baseball cap, on backwards. And we're like, okay, we've seen enough. We're leaving now. This is not serious, Guys, that's not funny. And then
that was crazy. I gotta say, Careem at that time, I think that was the most fun I was ever having at Careem. I think it was like the golden era of Careem. No offense to Steve, who joined us a little bit later, but like,
I'm just an observer in this call. Just
yeah.
you guys along.
Yeah. But man, it was like the golden era, man. The energy in that place, you're absolutely right. It was contagious too, man. Like, it was a rocket ship, and we were growing like crazy. The team was amazing. The culture was great. It was honestly,
Yeah, it was awesome.
it's funny.
It was kind of our golden era as well for us. Like 2016 was our genesis, and you came in at the right time because at that time we had the attitude of like, we're only going to do stuff that we want to do, and we're going to turn away. We had this like business plan. We're going to turn away business if it's going to bore us and it's not going to be good for our brand. We're going to do crazy stuff. And then you came in and it was like, you know, it's just the right time for everything. And the visa stuff was getting good traction.
Yeah,
That kind of got us a bit.
man. The visa
attention.
campaign, like for us, I think if we hadn't seen the visa campaign, I don't think we would have ended up probably speaking. I think that really put you guys on the map. I think generally speaking in the advertising world, at least from my perspective, like when we
That
saw
summer. Sorry, Chris, go.
No, I was just going to say, when we saw that, we knew that we wanted to work with you guys and there was nobody else we wanted to speak to. It was like the decision was made. Once we saw that piece of content, it really kind of earmarked the way you guys do stuff, you know? So
I just think we should have gone for equity.
Yeah. Yeah, you should have.
You should have said, oh man, some percent share. Good. Let's just shake on it, you know.
Yeah.
No, it was crazy for us as well, man. Because like after we met you, I think you traveled somewhere, and then we were left with Nelio.
Yeah. I went to get married.
Was it?
Yeah. Or no, I went on my honeymoon. I came back, then I went on my honeymoon.
This was the time where so we met, and then I think we met you the first time, and then we met you like 3-4 days again. But for the 3-4 days, we weren't seeing you, we were seeing Nelio. And Nelio was drawing this picture, man, like, man, Chris can just throw everything out the door. It's gotta be right, it's gotta be right. And I was like, man, this is crazy. And it was good for us as well, because I think the brief that came to us was like, you know, we want crazy. We want crazy. Yeah. And the place looked young and it was buzzing. So I think half our excitement and, you know, adrenaline was like, shit, if there was ever a possibility of doing crazy, it's now, you know?
I remember the first time you guys pitched the concept. We were sitting in that room. It was a small room, and it had that TV. There was like 4 chairs around a square table. And I remember we were sitting in that room with Zaina Hakam. Who else was there? I think Dana Haremi. Anyway, so we were like a handful of people. And we weren't looking at like actual production. We were just looking at concepts. They were just concept slides, I think. And you had
the first time we presented, we just brought the things you stick on the wall. And
yes.
It was just purely those papers, and then the second time we came around, it was the.
There's a great photo of the 3 of us, myself, Essa, and Nader, in Q43. So directly after our meeting, when we had that stuff on the wall, and I think you literally went, "Does he have to die?" And we're like, "Yeah." Okay. We're like, "Yeah." And we're in Q43, like with a beer, and we have the things rolled up. It's a great photo because the energy after that was just like, "Yes, this could happen," you know.
Man, that was amazing. I think there was a couple of concepts. There was a slingshot. There was like a balloon or something. I don't remember, but there was like a bunch of there was 3 concepts I think you guys pitched, and the craziest one was the slingshot. And you had a reference. You had this reference of like a extreme sport thing that we had seen somewhere. Remember, you had a reference of how crazy it could look.
I think we had a dolphin taxi.
Oh shit, the dolphin taxi. That's true. Yeah, I remember that. I remember the dolphin taxi.
So we had the whole research done as well, like all of the 3 of us, of how we're going to go to Cairo and shoot people and pretend they're being pulled by dolphins and they're jet skis. I don't know, man.
It was some crazy shit. And then I don't know, somehow we all mustered the courage to just go with it. And then you remember the first time we showed it to Magnus and Mudassir?
Yeah. It was done by that point. All they'd seen was the final video.
I mean, we pulled them into it like 3 days or 4 days before it was done. Oh, by the way, this is what we're doing. This is how we're launching the brand. And then I remember Magnus's face, man. The guy was like in shock.
It couldn't work out if they were excited or fearful, because Magnus just stood up and started laughing at the back of the room, and Mudassir was just sitting on the table, just still absorbing. And we're all just kind of awkwardly like,
I felt like, you know, when your parents, like you're in a lot of trouble, but your parents don't want to save face. So they're kind of like, you know, I'll talk to you after this.
Yeah.
In front of us. And we felt like, we better leave here. I think Christian's about
I thought I was gonna get my ass kicked, to be honest, and I was so scared too because I was like, man, I committed to these guys. They spent all the money. The production's like done. Like, we owe money. If Mudassir doesn't want to do it, then we're screwed. I have to pay for it myself. Ah, shit. Yeah, it was.
I can
super-
assure you, it went down in folklore history, right? I could never live up to that moment
Oh
with
my
the
God,
slingshot.
either
So
can we.
for
Or
us,
Wonderwall.
it was also odd for us, man, because Mudassir and Magnus got pulled in. And I think there was your finance guy as well, the guy with the glasses.
Encore. Yeah.
Encore.
Encore was there. It's true. Encore was there.
I think Encore was the one who like.
How did
first
he
spoke.
react?
He's the one who
said-
broke the ice, by the way. He's the one who laughed the hardest, I remember.
Yeah, but
Amazing.
he also posed the question saying, "Are we really gonna like kill people? Like is that?"
Yeah.
and then he left.
Flicking through the brand manifesto. Is this in here? Killing people?
And then Magnus and I think Magnus was it Mudassir or Magnus? One of them was not comfortable with it.
I think Mudassir wasn't comfortable with it.
Yeah.
I think Magnus didn't really vocalize much except just endless laughter.
But not to us. They left the room. and
Yeah.
like,
Magnus just laughed and kept laughing. Even when I saw him like the next day, he was still laughing about it. Like I don't think he ever kind of had a negative kind of or fearful kind of reaction to it. I think Mudassir was just really, thinking about how people would kind of react to it. And he was super nervous about it.
you gotta understand from our perspective, like working with Procter and Gamble's and Nestle's, if your clients leave the room without saying anything, poker face, and then you rushed out, you said, hang on, let me check. And we're just there, we're like, you're gonna pay us, right? What's going on? And then you came back in and you were like, don't worry, they're not comfortable, but don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we left that place with Chris telling us, they're not comfortable, but don't worry about it. It's on me. And so we had a few of these. It's on me, right? To be fair to us as well. Like we had the same thing with Imar, where the CMO, without showing a bar, she released our balloon video, and then she was like, "It's on me." And we were like, there's a lot of "it's on me" happening. I don't know if this is happening, not happening,
Yeah,
that
man.
was the key. It was the right people on the brand side. Every campaign we've done, it's all making sure that there was the right mentality on the other side just as much as our side.
But man, it's
There was
not
always
easy. It's not easy, man. Like the brands, brands in the region do not have this tone of voice. Brands do not have this style. The brands do not take risks.
I think it's more, Chris, honestly, and not to give you too much kudos, but it's brand managers or whoever don't have, the bravery or the balls, whatever you want to call it, you had. Like most people will want to research something. If we had to research the Slingshot, it would have went. If you had shown it to people earlier before it was made, they probably would have had a little committee meeting, everyone walking by, the janitor going, "No, I don't think we should do that," and then all of a sudden it's dead. So it was just this perfect storm that kind of accumulated. And even from our side, I don't know if we've ever told you this a little bit, before we showed you the edit, we had to change. Remember, guys, it was really dark. We had a kind of deathly scream. We had this weird vibe going on, and we saw
we
it.
were
We were like,
yeah,
"Ooh, this is not good."
Oh yeah, you haven't seen
We had
that.
to re-edit this. We had to redo the sound. We had to redo everything because it came out really dark and it was like morbid. And we were like, "Oh, that's not nice. I don't like watching that." And then we rejigged it. Like, even the sound design of me going, "Okay, you next." We had to make everything a little bit lighthearted and scream nicer and all.
I'll be super honest, and fuck it, it's on the podcast. But what you guys don't know is, a month before I called you guys in, and when right before I had taken the new role of Careem, I had resigned from Careem. So my state of mind was fuck it. You know what I mean? So I was also built up all that courage that
I have kids, man. Just so you know, I had kids back then too, man. That's risking a lot of my
and I hear you. And for me, it was like, like if I'm going to stick around and I think what the organization likes and can benefit from me is having the courage to just do what I want to do and just really believe in myself and have the courage to do things, because I think that's what the brand needed. At the time, don't forget, guys, like we were going up against the strongest, best funded brand in the world. You know what I mean? Like Uber was the fastest growing, strongest brand out there. There's nothing we could do to get share of voice. You know what I mean? There was nothing we could do. Even if we were super well funded, even if we had like $120 million to just put on media, we would not be able to drown them out. Right? So it was like, I went in knowing that I could gamble because I was like, you know, fuck it, like let's just go for it. And at the same time, I also knew that that was probably the only recipe that would work. You know what I mean? Like that was, if we didn't do anything that would like make us stand out, then there was no point in doing a big brand launch. We could just do it like everybody else and just do like a transition video and make it like super subtle and corporate. Say, hey, we look different, but with the same great taste. No, but I realized we can't do that. I realized that if we were going to do anything, it would have to be crazy. So I think the perfect storm came together, right? It was like, I didn't give a shit. I was ready to take a risk. I was ready to kind of like put everything on the line. I think competitively, we didn't have a single choice. We had to do something crazy or else we were just going to lose the battle. And we needed that motivation internally too. So that whole kind of energy we had internally, we needed to manifest it as a brand. You know what you were saying, Issa? Like you'd come in, it was like stock market. We needed to express that. That wasn't being expressed. You know, people didn't know who we were. And then then you guys came around and you had the same courage and shit. So the perfect mix happened. And I think, you know, honestly, like kudos to Magnus and Mudassar, right? Because even though we showed it to them last second, like they could have pulled the plug easily, right? And I remember the one thing Mudassar was not happy with, and that was really, you know, kind of tiptoeing around, was the ending. If you guys remember the ending was going to be completely different. And we'll get to that part of the story in a second. But like, you know, we were going to throw a guy into the sky and he was going to miss the landing. And then the whole explanation at the end, you remember it was like a sketchbook. I don't remember.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we have this, we have that. It was very like functional and this is how it's going to end. And I don't know what. And Mudassar was like, oh, I don't like it. And, you know.
I think we got caught up in trying to say more than we needed to. There was this whole background of like innovation and we want to be this. When we really boiled down at the end and when the line became an issue and it was too complicated, it was just like, what are we trying to say essentially? And it was Careem's the better way to get around because they offer baby seats, because they do this, but without showing all of that shit, it was just, let's stick to like an awareness message that keeps stuff in mind.
Yeah. But by the way, like straight up, we didn't know that going in, right? Like if you remember when we first had the teaser edit, there's a couple things that we did, right? First, we put a bunch of logos on buildings because that's what the media permit said we were going to do.
It's part of the rules.
It was going to be a branded, remember? If you remember, we needed to put like a logo somewhere, and also it was to cover our asses. So we put a Careem wink up on one of the buildings, if you remember. Like if ever we had to show someone, we're like, see, it's branded. And then also we like lowered the resolution so it looked even more real. Remember how many times we did that?
Yeah.
4 times.
When potato quality in the end, but it worked.
It worked even better, right? It's like we were like, no, make it look like shit, make it look like shit, make it look like shit, lower the resolution, make it worse, make it worse, make it worse. And then kudos to Zaina at the time who did the whole strategy to release it. If you remember how we released it, we didn't post, Careem didn't post shit. We had nothing to do with it. It was seeded by like, I think a handful of influencers and people.
Man, the way you guys did it internally is something no media agency does or has the boat. Like if you go to a media agency, they're very much like, oh, we'll buy this section, we'll put it out here and this. When we said, oh shit, you can release this unbranded and then this, Zaina and you guys internally, like we're on spot with how it should go out and how it leaked, how to go back to it, which was like the biggest part of it as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. We never reflect on that, by the way, but it's true.
Yeah, the visa campaign was supposed to be like that, but it was pushed on all fronts by the media agency, by the brand as well, because of that risk of not having it branded immediately.
And I think the reason we took a different approach was because I think we realized that the ultimate objective was reach, whereas media agencies want to do reach but measure at the same time, right? Well, when we took measuring out of kind of the equation, we're like, fuck it, we're not going to be able to measure this, right? And if we want to measure it, we're going to have to track everything. And if we want to track everything, everything has to be super controlled. And we're like, if you control this and you try to control a piece of content like this, then it'll never go crazy, right? So the way, by the way, I think what Zaina did that was kind of cool, and I think what the team did that was like really, really cool was they used WhatsApp in a way that, you know, I think it's still an assumption, but generally speaking, we know that we dropped it in a bunch of WhatsApp groups and natively, right? So it's like a video that people could download themselves and repost themselves, which meant that we would have no idea how many views it was going to get. No idea, right? Like it would have been impossible. But we did that consciously, whereas a media agency is not going to do that, right? They want to prove to you, look at what we did. Look how many views we got. They want a controlled environment for various reasons. One, for integrity of the brand.
Brands.
Like, right? And two, to be able to, like, you know, say, look at what we did, right? But we knew that wasn't our objective. So we were like, you know what? Let's just seed it through WhatsApp and see what happens and get some key influencers on all the different channels to go crazy with it and to post it natively without ever tagging us or anything. And I think that freedom, that cavalier kind of I don't give a shit approach was the magic sauce in the distribution of the video. I think that was the difference.
I always
amazing.
Sorry,
go. No, go on, Russ.
I was just saying, like, it almost all the creativity in terms of the media from you guys came from a lot of constraints. Like, you didn't have the budgets to do this. Like, I remember you were talking, like, we can get these influencers to share it, but they're going to charge 10,000, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And they all shared it in the end, not knowing and for free. So that's what I thought. What was amazing about dropping it into these WhatsApp groups was all the people that would come back and charge you 20K, 30K, you know, I've got 400,000 followers. Here you go. Here's 20K, whatever. They were like, oh, that's a cool video. Let's share it. You know what I mean? That was a big win for me. I remember, like, everyone shared it, not knowing that.
It's like we hacked distribution. You know what I mean?
You did. No, you did hack. So from the outside looking in on the distribution piece, you totally hacked it, right? Because from an outside party perspective, I mean, it came in 3 waves. This content to me, right? So I'm living in Dubai. I'm not part of Careem, and you know the video came in and it was forwarded through just a typical forward, and then 3 days later, it's then forwarded, like, again 3 different groups come in, and then it arrived from the UK in a UK group into my inbox. So, you know, to hack that distribution piece, and it was, you know, obviously once you'll get to the part of the story as you reveal, but once that reveal came in on the brand, it was like, as a brand guy, you're like, holy shit, this was a brand that knows what it's doing. But yeah, the hack of distribution was crazy.
I think
and you think about today's world and how you share content today. I mean, yeah, it was an amazing thing.
I think, you know, now that we're talking about it, WhatsApp, you know, that's where we released it. And, you know, I don't know if it's the same in Saudi and Egypt. I would assume it is, but in Pakistan, where I am now, WhatsApp is pretty strong, man. It's where things get out and about and around. And I
100%.
think one of the reasons TikTok did so well is because their share feature on WhatsApp is just stupid. It's brilliant.
Yeah. They're not fearful of all the other platforms where you share content. That's what's good about TikTok. They'll create a format for all those platforms to then share content.
On the contrary, they built their platform off of all the other platforms.
Exactly.
The logo. Yeah. But WhatsApp was a big part of it. You know what I mean? Like, and in Dubai, especially in the marketing industry, you know, WhatsApp is not even considered as a medium. Like, forget about it. But what you don't realize is there's a huge consumer base on WhatsApp, man. Like,
but
uncluttered.
Yeah, but like, if a brand gets my WhatsApp, I hate that. You can't do that. So we, like Steve said, natively got into the groups. The only way we did that was by creating what wasn't an ad. It was just a crazy video. You know, I'm not going to share an Avia ad with Nader, and you know, it's just.
They do, man. They do. I would disagree, man. I've been forwarded a lot of ads, man.
But I mean, within marketing people are obsessed with advertising. They're obsessed with words. They share ads. Step outside the marketing world, no one really shares ads. No one likes ads. That's the biggest.
It's the shareability. No one knew it was an ad. So once you received it, you had absolutely no idea it was an ad.
I think, yeah, generally speaking, the tendency for people to share ads is probably much lower than the tendency for people to share unbranded stuff. I think that's for sure. But I think to Issa's point, if you can create an ad that is fucking awesome and shareable, I think that rule kind of still applies, but the likelihood of that is like way smaller than the likelihood of an unbranded piece of content, right? For sure.
I think it all depends on the video, man. If the insight is strong enough, if it's husband and wife, if it's man woman, if it's whatever, if it's a very hard hitting insight, people do share it, man, on
No,
WhatsApp.
I don't disagree, man. I think you're right. I'm just saying that the likelihood
Yeah, sure.
is probably kind of disproportionate, right? I think I think our video at the time, the teaser, was purely an unbranded 30-second high adrenaline, crazy, psychotic piece of content, right? You had a guy getting slingshotted off the top of a roof in Marina, right? Like it was super like out of this world. And I think what happened next, by the way, was crazy, right? So if you guys remember, we were gonna post it on a Saturday evening.
We did post it on
10 days.
Yeah.
We'll let it tease for 10 days.
Yeah.
Let's see if anything happens.
Yeah, let's let it go for like 10 days and just like monitor and see how it goes and see what happens. And then we could do the reveal and say, haha, it was us, it's Careem, this is our new brand. You know, a little wink.
We weren't even like, as a start, we made sure it was a good ad no matter what, in case that thing didn't work. So we'd even said, oh, let's release it unbranded and see how far we can get. Either way, when we post it as an ad, it'll still measure better, it'll be organic. And then fuck 10 days.
Man, that was the scariest few days of my life.
It was just a day, man. I think.
Man, it was insane.
I think we released it Saturday evening, and then by Sunday afternoon, I think you got the call, right?
By Sunday afternoon, I got a call. Well, actually, they called into Careem because I think they found out it was Careem, and somebody told them. I don't know who it was, and then they called into us and they asked us if this was our video and what was it about, and we explained it to them, and then they asked us, you know, basically kindly to reveal because it was getting out of hand and people actually thought that this person, you know, had been killed. So. Which, by the way, blows my mind. Like in retrospect, like to me, it's I don't know. It's obvious that it wasn't real, but I mean, maybe for some people, you know, maybe we watched it too many times.
We had to shoot the ending. Do you remember that evening on Sunday?
We had 24 hours.
It was mainly because there was articles released in Egypt and Saudi and Jordan that claimed the guy is Ahmed Saeed or someone, 26-year-old Egyptian. It was a 26-year-old Egyptian. It just wasn't the guy they were talking about. and they legit. So the guy who was actually in the slingshot was sitting with us reading the article, and his mom calls him on the phone, and she's like, "Mahmoud, are you okay?" And he's on the phone, "I am okay." And his parents knew that all this was going down, and they were like, "There's all this talk." So I think that made it really worse because after
it was on the news, man, everywhere. It was like on actual TV news, nightly news. It was like on every like news Twitter handle. It was going crazy. Everybody was talking about it.
I remember, do you remember, guys, like we were, you know, everyone was following it, and then it was like, people who made this film will be in jail. And we were honestly, John, we better go get our passports. And I remember being scared. Like, I'm going to get home, get my passport.
I ran to our general counsel at the time. It was the same general counsel, Stavros. I'm like, man, what do I do? He's like, where's your passport? I'm like, man, I don't know. He's like, okay, just go home and sit at home. It was super scary, man. And like, crazy, man. And then they basically told us like, okay, like do the reveal, make sure people know that, you know, he's okay, you know.
So he made us. So they made us sense in the video while we were on the phone with them. They're like, "Can you send me the revealer?" And we were like, I think it was me and Nader on the call.
I remember that, and then I'm like, okay, you should speak to the Misfits. And then I called you, Issa. Then this is the guy you need to talk to. I'm like passing you the hot potato as well. Like, please, he's the guy that's gonna make the ending, all this stuff. And then
we're leaving.
That was some crazy stuff, man. And then
and then he was like, you know, can you guys make sure he's alive? Like, can you say it in the end? And I was like, let us think about it, man. Jeez, like, no, it'd be nice if you do.
And you remember that night, or was it that night? We were actually saying, let's gamble and let's not do the reveal just yet.
No.
We started.
I remember wasn't us saying that. It was you were saying that. You were like, this is for another day. And I was like, man, the guy called us.
I was at the airport at this stage.
I'm like, let's just hold on one more day. Hold on one more day. Hold on. No, man. We got to reveal.
I remember going back to the office saying, man, I know it's good to have crazy brand managers, but this is nuts.
We were all in your office, Ace, and me, you, Nader, and when you had to call the government official, and it was,
oh, you there as well?
and it was really like tense, and we were like, we're in trouble, we're in a lot of trouble, up until the point where he's like, you were like, well, I had the Dubai Film permission or whatever. He was just like, you had permission to this? It's like, yeah, we got everything. He's like, okay. And then you just know someone's about to get fired on the other end. Here's some angry guy going, kind of stuff.
Because we had everything in there, right? We submit storyboards, detailed storyboards showing exactly what's happening that gets approved by the government. Stuff.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Nobody realizes the virality and stuff that you can't tell off a storyboard that, this is going to go crazy.
Of course not. Right. And in their defense, there's no way to kind of evaluate the storyboard and say this is going to be, risky or not risky. The only thing I think they look out for is things that are against kind of like, policy, right? But like none of the stuff was against policy, so it was easy to go by. And then I remember you guys shared the ending, and I don't know, you had what's his name jump off of a ladder and fall into a pool or something. I don't remember what it was.
We had to do that.
Yeah.
They asked us to do that. We did that evening. We just ran up to the building, the rooftop, the pool.
I think about it, man. I think it was definitely one of the videos that I think at least perception, the perception of how advertising works for people. Like taking something and releasing it in that manner, and then getting that traction. People just went like, "What? You could do that with the internet? Really?"
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't think any of us knew we could do that either, right? I think the strategy was quite naive going in. Like none of us understood the scale at which it would explode, right? I don't think, I think, like in retrospect, I think one of the biggest learnings was if you try to tick all the boxes of marketing, which includes like being able to measure and optimize and this and target, if you try to tick all those boxes, then you take away from kind of the potential of a piece of content, right? Content only works in a natural kind of cycle. Like you can't force content to become viral. The only thing you can do is make sure it kind of has the freedom to move wherever it needs to move, right? Like sometimes content will take 3 years to get viral. It's not going to happen the first day because it had to go down the specific routes and channels to get to a point where it's relevant, right? So I think going into it, we were super naive, but I think the recipe was, I've never been able to do something like that again in my career. I don't think I've had brands that have had the courage to let me do that ever again. And to be honest, like, I think Careem, where it was in its life, cycle and brand building, it was super unique. It was the perfect storm. I don't think this can happen anywhere, right? I don't think it can happen to any brand anytime. I don't think it's something that you can replicate. Oh, I need to do a slingshot viral kind of concept and it's going to work, to the T. I think.
Done it, man.
Yeah.
every meeting we've had since 2016 is like, we want the Careem. We want this one. You're like, okay, you don't have the balls to do it.
The amount of times the brand manager has said to us, the amount of times the brand manager has said to us, we want something like the Slingshot. And the amount of times our friend Baker, Nader, has turned around and said, you know what? If you were the brand manager, you wouldn't go for the Slingshot. But it's true though. It's true. Because
it's true.
They want a Slingshot, but if you go and present a Slingshot, how many of them are going to approve it?
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
You know what I mean?
After
going back to your point, man, I think for us, at least from an advertising perspective, we were on a mission to create this. We did dip our toes in it with Visa. There's the whale thing also went quite viral, and there was the whole article where this lady said, this is real. I know it's real, and I live here, but I don't know what all happened.
That got over, I think it was like
50 million.
60 million views, and like 40% was organic or something, which hadn't been seen like in loads of markets, let alone this one. That was the first time we're like, oh, we're onto something. But that was when we kind of said, you know what, fuck doing ads. We're competing against content. People are watching shit, so it has to be something they want to see or enjoy seeing. that's kind of when we put our foot down. I think the visa thing is when we were like, we'll stick to this kind of.
You know, so our mission was always to prove to the ad industry that, you know, things are changing. You got to do it in a new way, and, you know, forget measuring ROIs and, you know, the sales, and just brand building and see what can be done. And the thing that makes Careem different is the scale it achieved. I mean, that is unmatched. And I think it's going to be very hard to, you know, match that. Honestly speaking, that doesn't happen. It happened once in a lifetime.
I mean, when you look at, how it scaled. So day 1 was a couple million views. Day 2 was about 10, 15 million views. Day 3, it hit the 50, 60 mark. By the end of the week, we had gone to 200, 250 million views. I mean, you had people like Snoop Dogg, you know, sharing it. You had Ellen DeGeneres. You had,
Yep.
4 years later, you have Elon Musk sharing it. And those are the accounts that we follow, that we're aware of, right? So it's like, I remember there were Facebook profiles that had like 20, 30 million views by themselves, right? So it's like, it's impossible for us to really know how many views this thing has actually gotten to, right? And the funny thing was, once we did the reveal, I think what was incredible, and which I think a lot of people then say, okay, well, if it's an unbranded teaser, then okay, great, you got views of the piece of content, but how good was it for Careem? And this is the part that I think is super interesting. Once we did the reveal, so there's 2 groups that we looked at. So audiences that we are kind of caring about, that we want them to be aware of us and convert to us. So those people were definitely made aware of us in our regions and our geography. But on top of that, kind of like the additional audiences that we never anticipated to get were either not in our region, not in our continent. For example, I remember, you know, a couple of days ago, I was looking into my old emails, and I think I forwarded a couple to Nader, but like, I had an email from a guy in Japan who wanted to interview us. I had an email from a person, was it Germany? Or was it Brazil?
TV show.
Yeah, there was a TV show in Brazil that I actually had to call into, by the way, and be part of the show. So the video got so viral. It completely went global. It wasn't like a Dubai thing. It wasn't a GCC thing. It wasn't a Middle Eastern thing. It was a global kind of piece of content that it crossed oceans within like a couple of days, right? So I think, I mean, when's the last time you saw a piece of content, any content, right? Artistic content, branded content, any content, cross oceans and get created out of Dubai and go viral in Brazil, right? Like, I don't think I've ever seen a piece of content do that coming out of the region, right? So I think, yeah, I don't think this is something that you can replicate and do tons of. I think
You can't engineer. I mean, we tried. You know, I had one of these experiences in Pakistan. I tried. We did get, you know, 6 million or 8 million views in 2 days, which was great. But, you know, it made the news and so on. But the scale that Careem achieved.
Sure, we followed up the slingshot with the Rhino in Qatar. And I thought that was going to be huge. That's still one of my favorites, but it just didn't hit. Like, that's what I hate about when you go into brand managers or marketing people or anyone that says we want to create a viral video, you're just like, you don't know what you're talking about. It's a lottery. You know, I want to win the lotto. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. And you have to like get that into people's heads. You cannot create viral unless you try and tick these boxes, which is crazy. Like, let's dissect the slingshot. It's a cliffhanger. It's like a movie teaser. I'm like, I want to see more. Is that guy dead? What happened? It's so real. Like, it leaves me asking so many questions. I think with the Rhino, you kind of knew it was fake because but it was still a good video and stuff. But the slingshot really did like make you question. We knew obviously, but people are like, you know, people are genuinely like, was that real? Is that?
But there was the suspense. I really like. I agree with you. I think the Rhino, you knew it was fake, so you didn't pursue it or follow it or share it. But when you saw a guy get shot off of a roof, and the last thing you saw before the video ending was a guy saying, "Cut." That was a difference for me, right? That was the, oh shit, what the hell did I just see? Was that real? I'm not sure, but I need to share this, right? It's different.
At the same time, it can get very subjective. So ticking all the boxes and all that science, like every time we've taken on a campaign, there'll be like 4 ideas, 6 ideas, whatever it is. You never know which one is going to be the hit as well sometimes. So like when we did the stuff for OSM, they tried to kill one of the videos where we had a firework exploding in the guy's face. And it was just subjective about, oh, I think this is funny. Oh, I don't think. And it got to that point where I think three of the ideas we were going to drop. And even us, sometimes there are ones that I don't like, but Ross will like, or Ross doesn't like them and I'll like. But once it goes out, like you don't know what people are going to pick up on, and they have a good chance. So like out of 3 or 4, it might just be one that takes off and goes kind of like huge. And that was the firework one. Ended up being one of the biggest ones for that campaign that went through.
With the slingshot, genuinely, the conversations in the groups that I was in was, holy fuck, is this a real thing? Did a guy like, is this now been censored? And then you're trying to figure out, like, and then you're like, no, it can't be real. It can't be real. But just the fact that you even got to the point where you created the seed of doubt. And that, I mean, I've got it playing. It's currently playing now on Elon Musk's. I'm pretty sure it's probably taken off again. This had 7.4 million views from June 11th. The video that was posted by Elon Musk. I mean, guys, it's insane.
Look, I think I heard Elon probably behind maybe Trump or something. I think he has the second most influential Twitter account in the world.
Yeah.
You know, and plus he hates advertising. Yeah, good luck trying to get him to share an ad ever. It's not as if he needs the money, yet he did. And people are like, yeah, well, it's the unbranded. No, but then you just go into the comments and people are like, it's a hoax, it's this, it's an ad, it's Careem. And you just see comments on every video that's ever been posted anywhere. It's all in the comment section. Because you get the keyboard warriors going, no, it's fake, I know this, it's an ad, it's an ad. They're doing all that's media, that's free media. They're just PRing it for, like, that's the brilliance. Back to the thing, we can't measure it. It's
just on that, like, you go to one of the top comments. If you go Hassan Sajwani, like he's the tech business counterterrorism politics, like, and he's responded. He's like claiming this is in Dubai, and this is from Careem, a brand in Dubai. Amazing how you've gone full circle. If you imagine what you guys were describing in your first like T-minus 24 hours from when you released it.
I mean, and to be honest, like Careem today in June 2020 is still reaping the rewards of this campaign now, on the back of this, right? So the brand awareness, the top of mind, and that tone of voice, that feeling. I mean, I'll be very honest. I think the timing is amazing. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, Careem had to make some tough decisions. You know, the brand had to let some people go. Circumstances of the market is kind of shit. I think in an odd way, this campaign kind of, you know, shows you the DNA of the brand all over again and gives you that energy and that good feeling all over again. So I think it's strange, man. I feel like I think we're all super proud of what we did with that campaign and how it turned out. But I think Careem is still kind of reaping the rewards of that campaign, and that's amazing, man. And I don't think, you know, you can ever say that a campaign that was done, you know, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, for any brand is still reaping rewards today, right? It's odd that a campaign can bounce forward and backwards. I don't think this is the last time. I think, who knows, man? A couple of years from now, it might happen again, and somebody else might post it, right? It's the more I go back and I look for that video, and I just randomly look at the accounts that I remember were posting the video when we first started, and I see how many views there are, it just blows my mind.
I remember putting in Dubai Slingshot into Google. Remember, Nader, when we were on, I think the first 18 or 20 pages of Google search, it was pretty much all Careem Slingshot, like all different, like 20 pages of Google in from different sources. It was crazy.
What's crazy is that, you know, they actually had done a slingshot in Dubai.
I was about to say, they created the slingshot. In 2019, they created it. Yeah.
Oh, no. At the same time that we had done our slingshot.
Yeah, there was an extreme sport one. That was
ex-Dubai guys.
Dubai had done one where they actually took a guy and created the slingshot, and they shot him into the air.
Yeah.
And then he just had a parachute, and he just, you know, came down. That just got overshadowed by our slingshot. So if you go and search Dubai slingshot, all you see is our slingshot. You don't see the actual one, which, you know, ex-Dubai, poor guys, you know, they was going like, this is gonna go viral, man. little did they know. There was 3 guys.
This is real boring.
And you guys remember we had also the skateboard one, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The guy on a skateboard holding the back of a truck. And then there was the rhino.
Yeah.
Then we were gonna do the one where the guy was jumping off the bridge to land on the bus. Well, Issa, basically.
Yeah, we did.
Did we release it? I don't remember if we released that one.
I think we did.
Taken down off.
Got taken down. It was in bad taste for suicide or something crazy.
Oh,
We
yeah.
actually agreed at the time. Yeah, let's take that down.
Yeah.
Why don't you guys took it down, or it was down before?
No, I think we posted it, and then initial reactions were kind of super negative. People were like, "Oh my God." Like, there was a bunch of like sensitivities in that video. But yeah.
So as the Misfits, we've obviously worked on lots of different stuff other than Careem, but most of the time it's a kind of 50-50 split with negative and positive about our campaigns. And we've realized that's actually a good thing because everybody's talking, whether it's good or bad. We did another thing for a Kiwi brand, and we were reading the comments ourselves, and it was like, how dare you show this girl's bottom in these jeans and blah, 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 like keyboards go, oh no, we're in trouble here. And we went into the meeting, and they were like, brilliant, sit down, guys. We were like, should we not? We thought we were in trouble. They were like, no, this is the most amount of traction we've ever got. We don't care. It's brilliant.
And that's the thing. Sorry, go on.
No, just to finish off, that ended up being entered, winning awards. It grew their business by 600% or something crazy. I can't remember. Yeah. And it was all like, a lot of other people would have pulled it straight away. You know what I mean? We've had stuff pulled from cinema ads from
we would have pulled it as well. We were thinking of pulling it off.
The weird thing that was like the learning from that is because when they showed us the data, all we could see were negative comments because those are the ones that would spend the time to write something or anything like that. But for every comment and organic reach it reached so many other people that liked it and wouldn't bother to comment, but it got to the right people. But we were just so concerned on the negative.
But I think this is fundamentally the problem with people that manage brands. It's like they don't understand fundamentally what a brand is supposed to do. All a brand is supposed to do is be memorable and have a place and people need to be made aware of it. Whether you love a brand or you hate a brand, if you agree with it or you disagree with it, that's not the point. You just need to be memorable and have a position. If you stand for nothing, you don't have a character, a tone of voice, a personality, a perspective, then you're not a brand. You know what I mean? Like now today, I mean, look at the world we're living in today, and the world kind of seems like it's on fire. But like brands that are not saying anything or not participating in any of the conversations, no matter how sensitive they are brands that don't exist, basically. Right? Like, and that's the thing. Like, distasteful or not, or offensive or not, if the only comments you read are negative, as long as people form an opinion about you, that's good. Whether it's bad or it's good, it's still good, right? Now, of course, there are limitations to that, just like there are limitations to everything in life. But generally, your brand has to strike some sort of feeling. If people engage with your brand and they don't feel anything, then they're not going to remember you. They're not going to care about you. They're not going to like you, or they're not going to hate you. You want them to pick one of the two. You don't want them to feel like, meh, that brand doesn't mean anything. They need to form an opinion about you. You know what I mean? And that's the problem with brand managers. They don't get that. They're so scared. You know?
But it's like you said, brand is a personality, but you have to be kind of consistent, and it doesn't happen overnight. Doesn't happen. Problem with Dubai is everyone has like a 2-year. You know, you go in and this marketing guys for 2 years. On the creative side, it's kind of 2 years, 3 years. You know, ECDs. It's very so no one's there for the long term. They're just kind of like, I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to get fired. So let's just go vanilla.
That drives me mental, by the way.
On brand side, they're too scared. They don't want to. They don't care about like getting good results or bad. They just kind of want to. Okay, let's play it safe. Stay to what we have. And then even in agencies, when we used to work in agencies, how many ideas wouldn't even get to the brand?
Yeah, and I gotta say, like being in-house most of my career and like being like leading marketing inside within the brands, I gotta say, like I have a huge frustration with the way kind of marketing is kind of evolving over time. Like I really feel bad for people that lead marketing in organizations or lead brands today. It's because they have their hands cuffed. They can't do much, right? So they don't control, the performance marketing. They don't really control, much of the channel stuff. They have huge limitations on the content or the tone of voice, the personality that they're able to kind of get out there. They're extremely worried, and they're held accountable to the performance of the company. Right? It's like, oh, if I'm not selling, it's your fault. But at the same time, you can't do this, and you can't do that, and you can't do this, and you can't do that, and don't do this, and don't do that, and it's too risky to do this, and it's too risky to do that. They like live within this world of limitations, but are accountable for everything. The highest rotation of any executive role in any business is a marketing role. You see CMOs or brand managers get rotated like nobody's business, right? Like, you just see people just get churned nonstop. And that's because they're basically, their head's on the cutting board. right? And they're the ones that are accountable, but at the same time, they're the ones that have zero power in organization, right? It's incredible, right? Like CEOs never get blamed for bad performance, or chief product officers never get blamed for bad performance. When anybody's there to blame, it's marketing. But at the same time, when marketing asks for money or risk taking or flexibility or whatever, they never get it, right? So it's like you can only play within a certain area, and they've always played within that area, so nothing's ever going to change. So long as you stay within that ring fence space, nothing different is going to come out of it. But they expect different results, right? It's like, don't change the brand, don't be too outspoken, don't do something, oh, we don't do that, that's not our brand, or oh no, we don't do this. But do everything within that world, but give me a different result. And that's like, I think that's partly why I think I left the whole like, I'm going to work in-house and I'm going to be in brands and I'm going to be a CMO or lead, marketing for an organization. Fuck that. I have zero control.
I think that what you did, like risk taking, all that, that's a lesson to be learned. Like if you look at the guy, the head of Burger King, Fernando something, and Burger King, he's heralded as the great. He's on all the juries. He's brilliant, and he is. But look at his brand. They're attacking McDonald's with Whopper detours, turning stuff on fire. It's brilliant. It's hilarious. We're sharing that. So you have to take a risk. That's a lesson in life. If you don't put your head on the chopping block, if it succeeds, then you're above the rest of them. You know what I mean? Like, think about from the Careem video, like everyone wanted to know who the Christian Eid was because he was the guy that did the Careem. You know what I mean? Like you can build a career on putting your, like, taking.
Yeah, but to be candid, I left. And I left for multiple reasons, right? I left for reasons that were personal and reasons, also that like maybe I wasn't maybe the perspective and the view and the approach that I was taking was not appreciated, right? So the problem with brands is that in the moment, when the Slingshot happened, everybody loved it. Internally, externally, it was amazing. But the justification was that the brand needed that at that point in time. But that DNA and that character wasn't necessarily something that we should stick to longer term, which is a mistake, right? So Burger King held on to that DNA and to that character, right? So today, Burger King is always going to take a swing at competition. Is always going to do a bit of a stunt. It's their tone of voice. It's who they are. Whereas if you look at Careem today as a brand, and I'm not throwing anyone under the bus because Steve, who's here, actually managed the brand for a while when I was, he was him and I think Ian at the time managed the brand.
When the stocks.
Oh, it's you, Steve.
Yeah, but it was on me. I'll talk about the handover that Chris did once he finished.
No, but what I'm saying, the
arrest warrants and stuff. Here's my handover.
but I mean, to kind of Steve's defense too, the brand felt that it had to grow up, and that tone of voice wasn't who it was, right? And that it was cool for the moment and all that, but over time it got more structured, more serious. Tone of voice got a bit more controlled and things like that, because that's who the brand thought they were, and maybe they're right. Time will tell, and so far, I mean, it's been super successful as a brand. So I mean, who am I to say that they're wrong? But generally speaking, Burger King, and when you tie that reference, it's kind of interesting because Burger King anchored that tone of voice. That's who we are.
I always use this analogy of campaigns, a brand's personality and comedians. So if you come out with a funny joke once, okay, that guy told me a funny joke. But if every time I see you, you're funny, right? Then you're a funny guy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's your personality. If a brand does a one-off and it's a success, great. And then if it never repeats that personality again, I'm speaking generally, right? I don't think Careem went completely off, because I think they retained a lot of their playful personalities and still do till today. Because they did a lot of good stuff in Egypt, a lot of good stuff in Pakistan as well.
Yeah.
They were quite viral, top of mind. They've managed to stay in the news.
I think in 2017 and 2018 for sure.
Yeah.
So I got it a bit more dialed down, but yeah, generally yes, I would agree with you to some extent.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say that their personality completely went from where they were, like to where they are now. I think it's more matured maybe, or they have toned it down maybe.
I think it was yeah.
But yes,
It was an interesting time because the brand went kind of morphed through. Like when I took over the brand, it kind of morphed through different phases. So and the durability of the brand resonated a certain way in different markets, different countries, and elements of the brand that was developed by the team was dialed up more in certain markets and dialed down a little bit more in some of the other markets. From a maturity level to try and resonate more, to try and conform. And brands, when you think, if you look at brands as in general, Careem's still a young brand. So figuring its footing out, who it is, what it stands for, that was a journey that was kind of fast tracked. Exactly. And the Slingshot was, you literally catapulted the brand into the mainstream. So it was almost running so fast and to try to figure out all the different pieces and where it stood. And that was taking over and trying to manage the brand. In essence, the challenge coming off the back of that was that kind of like almost divide of how do you keep all the plates spinning based on what's working here and what might not work here, and that maturity piece that comes with it.
But I also think a lot of it also is a topic that we just discussed earlier. So if there is a rotation or if there is a change of leadership in a marketing organization, inevitably the marketing will change. Right, that's only natural, right? That's only normal. That to some extent, the type of marketing, the attention, the focus, what the brand is going to do is inevitably it's going to differ a little bit. Of course, the brand is the same, the fundamentals are the same, the tone of voice should be the same, but the way it's kind of manifested is a bit different because the interpretation and the focus might be different too. Not to mention, like you just said, Steve, the point in the life cycle of the brand is also different. So I think fine, yes, but I also think Careem as a brand, in terms of its tone of voice, it has evolved. It has become. It's now in different verticals in different parts of business. They do food, they do payments, they do this, they do that. So maybe trust is a bigger,
it's a huge part of it.
It's a huge part of the brand now too. Whereas it wasn't, that much of a big deal back then, especially when we were competing head on just on ride hailing. But yeah,
but I do agree with your earlier point where you said Burger King has maintained the personality and the level of for lack of a better word, savageness, right? They've maintained that for a long time, and now you end up loving the brand. Old Spice has done it, Nike has done it. You pick up Mastercard's done it. So when a brand does stick to it and does understand what their personality is and does follow it through, it has an enormous impact on people, right?
Yeah. And brands that do that have a centralized model that enable them to do that. Brands that are operating in a more decentralized, I want to go there. Brands operate in a more decentralized manner, where control is outside government. Then the brand
I agree, man.
does not stay consistent.
But there's a strategy to Burger King's approach. Like it's kind of, advertising 101. If you're the market leader, you have to grow the market. If you're not the market leader, you have to rob market leaders' share. McDonald's is the market leader. They need to get new people eating their crap. Burger King just needs to take people away from McDonald's. So there is method to the madness, but it's just funny and it's entertaining. And it's me going, I don't particularly know Burger King as a good brand before this. I know it has the king. I never really thought, but as soon as they started attacking McDonald's, I was like, this is cool. Because you're just like, they're fun. I like it. You know what I mean? Positive.
But look at that. Let's take that as an example, right? To what, Steve, you're saying, right? Centralization and decentralization. You cannot centralize that idea because you can't have competitive communication marketing in most of the world, right? It's just in US where you can actually attack McDonald's. So right there, is Burger King funnier outside? It's not, right? I don't know. We don't see anything cool from anywhere. So I don't know if the centralization thing,
Yeah, no, I don't know about the on the Burger King front. I think the centralization of the ethos of who they are and the understanding of who they are. So there is some really cool stuff that and Fernando's done an incredible job of kind of building that community around the world when it comes to Burger King. You look at some of the campaigns in the UK. They've done some incredible stuff there, which is again it follows that same ethos. So the buy-in, the consistency there, it's almost like the creative Burger King school Once you have that alignment and you are every single marketer in the organization is working down that route, then of course you can operate in a completely decentralized manner. You can operate from local markets, and you can just continue to build the ethos of the Burger King brand in the local market relevant to the audience. What I'm saying is that when an organization has a difference of a view, difference of opinion, and the opinions are allowed to fester and not be controlled, you will then have that chaos and that identity crisis, which every brand, I'm sure, goes through at certain periods of time. And that's when the consistency dies, and therefore the actual ethos of the brand gets diluted.
And a question I have for you guys, being on, like, having had experience on the brand side, when something works, do you not commit to that and then build on it, as opposed to switching up the strategy and all of that? Like Old Spice used to communicate completely differently. When they tackled into the kind of style, humor, and the objective of talking to women, and then through the kind of idea they went with, it worked, and then they stuck with it and they built on that, as opposed to kind of switching it out. Was there anything at the time when it went out in certain markets where it was like, wasn't working, and that was the reason they're like, okay, we need to be more of a professional brand, be more careful of like how we speak and all that?
So at the time when the Slingshot did really, really well, I think internally it was a huge hit. I don't think anybody saw it as otherwise. The challenge that we had at the time is that, and in retrospect, it still stands true, but today I think our position is a bit different. But in retrospect, at the time, we were extremely decentralized in our marketing organization. We had built, small marketing organizations in every major country. And at the time, that video was a brand reveal kind of attention grabber. And the idea, if you guys even remember, was part of the plan, was that we would have videos created on a country-by-country basis. So we had the one for Qatar, the Rhino. We were going to have one for Pakistan, if you remember.
We did one for Pakistan, didn't you?
Yeah, and we were
flying in,
yeah, we had one for Saudi. We were going to do one for Egypt. Anyway, so the problem was that the quality control of a decentralized marketing organization that was a bit, I would say, immature, like Careem, was the challenge. So we couldn't allow the cities to just take the concept or recipe and do it themselves. So we kind of tried to manage it centrally, obviously, and you guys were going to help us produce that. The problem was removing them from the process, or removing them from the journey of creating the content that was going to be hyper localized for their market, kind of left, I would say, almost like a bad taste in their mouth, right? So it was like we were this startup that would, super empower people. We were the place to be. If you worked at Careem, you could do awesome things, especially if you were a marketeer. Like, your brand was cool. You could almost say anything. We were, super digital as well. We were all in the content game. We were engaging on social media and saying things on social media that most brands wouldn't. And the fact that a lot of the local teams weren't that involved in the content creation, and it wasn't within their market, I think kind of left a bit of a bad taste. And hence, the buy-in and the collaboration with the cities was a bit more challenging. And over time, that kind of grew a little bit as an organization. So we decided to build marketing capabilities within the organization, but within smaller teams in every country. And over time, the idea was to decentralize almost everything, and that the idea was that we would only control the brand locally, centrally. The problem with that was that giving a bit too much control to the markets left gap in terms of consistency and quality, because the caliber of the teams that we were able to get in those markets probably wasn't that good. And over time, those things improved. We ended up having amazing marketing leadership in a lot of the markets, but essentially we were losing the consistency of even the fundamentals of the brand. So, over time, even though people all acknowledged the recipe was one for success, I think the ability to execute it, to control it, to do it consistently, I think we were not an organization that was mature enough to do that amount of decentralization. I think to Steve's point.
You hire an agency, dog?
Yeah, that was the idea, right? And that was the idea.
I had you guys back in.
I want to say, I think I want to pose the question Nader asked again. look, if you think about brands like Axe and Geico, look at Axe. And Snickers? Sorry, Axe, Snickers. You're not you when you're hungry. They've just stuck to that. They reinvent it every year. But the personality, the messaging, the idea does not change. And I think what Nader is trying to say, and one of the things that we kind of like really kicks us in the nuts, which we hate, is the fact that you do all these campaigns, you do a lot of campaigns, like Ross said, you never know what's going to hit, what's going to miss, right? You put all your strategy in place, you do all your research, and you say, all right, this is what I want to send out as a message to people, and I want a certain reaction. If you get that reaction, like the Slingshot, right? Like we did get from the Slingshot. When you get that reaction, you know what works. Now you know what works, right? Why move away from it? Stick to it, right?
No, but what you guys have to understand,
There is also a time and place. So we also acknowledge from our end that we're not we don't take on. The reason we only work on like campaign basis is because we know that a brand doesn't always need the type of content we make, but it still needs a bit of consistency if you're going to take that approach.
But I'm not talking about the content though, Baker. I'm talking about the strategy, right?
You're talking about a recipe, an idea. That
the idea and recipe, yeah.
What you've done is you have found a recipe that works for your audience, that's going to work for your brand. Now, to the point that I think, Chris, you're probably better placed to do this, but branding is a dictatorship. When it's not a dictatorship and it's a democracy, it's fucked. Period.
Amen.
Chris.
So yes. So in my career.
No, but we share the frustration,
No. In my career so far, I could only come to one conclusion. If you want to build a brand, there's only one way to do it, and it's top down. Right? So
me too, man. I think
it's you need discipline, and it's like Steve said, it's a dictatorship. The second you decentralize, and the second you give too much power to different interpretations of what your brand guidelines are, what your recipe or your tone of voice is, and you empower different countries or different parts of the organization to make decisions without due process and without a centralized kind of view of the world, then you don't have any consistency. Khalas, it's done. And the second you don't have any consistency, no matter how awesome your campaign is, whether you got 1 billion views of your Slingshot or not, structurally, you're bound to fail.
Yeah, and you see it happening time and time again with brands, again and again. They have a success, then they move off. They have a success. And you're like, what are you doing? I just like what you did, previously did. I was really impressed with Snickers. I don't know if you guys saw the last one, the world is just hungry.
Yeah.
Like, that's brilliant. How, you were thinking, how would they reinvent You're Not You When You're Hungry in a time like this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But kudos, man. They did it, and they did it well. And you just love the brand for it. To keep one idea going for that many years.
Yeah. But I think the Nestle's, the P&G's, the Johnson and Johnsons, by the way, all these big, conglomerate groups of amazing brands, they only know how to build brands. They have that discipline, right? Like once you're a part of that family, which Snickers and those guys are, once you're one of those established or part of those established groups, they have the discipline. Whereas younger brands today, it's like a hit or miss. Some of them totally get it and have that maturity and understand, the fundamentals, and some don't, right? I think today I look at organizations and being disciplined and running kind of a dictatorship is not cool. Right? It's like, that's not our brand. That's not who we are. We're a lot, easier and more flexible. We're a startup, like flexibility is the name of our game. And if we try to be top down and, have rules and discipline, then it might not be good for the organizational culture. And I get that too. I'm not saying that's not.
That's always been our internal reservation as well. Like we've never at times not seen eye to eye when we go like, let's work more with startups, or let's entertain this startup or not entertain this startup. For this very reason, right? Because most of the startups don't get it, man. They're not even scratching the surface of brand building as yet, because they're just building the business. We get that as well. Do you know what I mean? If you look at,
I have a different view on that. I think startups, unrightfully so, don't build a brand for the wrong reasons. It's because they've only been incentivized to grow revenue, not
for funding. Yeah.
Right? So they're not motivated, and they're not incentivized to build a brand. They're incentivized for like a short-term high that will last them, the next 30 days until they have to raise, more money. So they're not like, no investor is going to tell them, "Oh, your brand is amazing." The only thing they're looking at are the KPIs, right? So there is no incentive to make that long-term strategic kind of investment and figure that out.
Didn't some? Remember you told us a story about guys were over from Japan, Chris, and you had a big 50 thing, and all they wanted to talk about was the video.
Yeah, so I got pulled into an investment meeting, and at the time they were evaluating us, and I had to present what we were doing in marketing. And at the time, the group was called Rakuten. I don't know if you guys know who Rakuten is, but it's a big Japanese group. And they really believe, by the way, in sports sponsorship. They actually sponsor Barcelona, and they sponsor another basketball team in the US. I think it's the Golden State Warriors. Anyways, so when their kind of committee came to evaluate, I guess Careem and to meet us, I was there presenting, what we do for marketing. I took them through the whole marketing strategy, and this is what we do, and da-da-da. And then when I showed them the Slingshot thing, and they're like, "Oh yeah, show us that. How'd you do this? And how'd you do that? And oh my God, that's amazing." And one of them had already seen it, and it was like, "Oh, show us this." And I know, "How'd you come up with this? This is amazing." Like a very serious meeting turned into like a room full of laughter, and people totally got it and were super excited about the brand because of that. So, I mean, I think the Slingshot for Careem is kind of like, it's funny. I woke up, Elon Musk sent it. When was it? Thursday? Was it Thursday?
Thursday, yeah.
Yeah. I woke up, and the first thing I saw when I picked up my phone was a WhatsApp, and it was actually from Mudassir, and it was basically Elon's tweet. And I woke up to that, and I got so excited, right? And I feel like, and then Magnus sent it, and then Abdullah Elias sent it. So the three guys, like, one after the other, all sent it to me. It was actually super funny. I mean, I don't talk to those guys on a regular basis anymore. So for one, it was great to kind of reconnect on that. But what was awesome is that I think that piece of content is like a gift that keeps on giving, by the way, when it comes to
it is, yeah.
It endlessly just brings it back. And I think for a long time, I don't think, I look at the landscape today in the region, by the way. I don't see any brand today that's doing anything out of the ordinary. I don't know about you guys, but I don't see anything that's really different, at least in the Middle East. I don't know about you, Isa, in Pakistan, or
no, not really,
in Dublin, Ross, but I mean, here in the Middle East, there's nothing, man. There's absolutely nothing. Not even a tone of voice that's cool. Like,
there was Weibo. No, I'm joking.
Weibo doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, really? I didn't know. Ah! Cha-ching, baby! Oh! But I think it has to be a combination between crazy and strategy. You know what I mean? Like you gotta maintain that personality of crazy. Do a slingshot, every now and then, but maintain that personality all year round with your tactic. I think it's a bit of both.
And that's why I'm saying that I feel like Careem changed a lot, is because at the time, even on social media, Careem would completely take over any conversation that was worth having online, right? I mean, if anything crazy was happening online, Careem would interfere, would say something crazy. If anything, happened, Careem was there. If, that's why I feel like, and sure, I think a lot of it is warranted and kind of a natural evolution of the brand, but I don't think any other brand has taken its kind of place or any other brand is doing anything interesting. Even, by the way, like the great brands that you guys worked with before, Visa, their tone of voice is completely flat now, right? I mean, in the region.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say there are brands, like the stuff we work on, we still stick to only producing stuff that we believe delivers their objective message in the most entertaining way. So that we do get to do cool stuff with a lot of brands, and we only do we try to aim only to do that stuff. The issue is what we were talking about earlier, where it was like, it's like being the hot chick on the side. They won't marry you, but they'll like every now and again, they'll meet you in a hotel room and see what happens, get a bit of excitement, and then have to go back to their wives and kind of pull back.
I don't know
what are you on, man? You all right, man?
I don't know, man.
Wait,
You want to talk about something, man?
You're right, bro.
I think we've been doing we've only done cool shit with brands, but the issue is that consistency.
No, go back to the hot chick in the hotel room, man.
Nader, are you wearing pants?
No, I'm serious, man. Can you explain that again? What the fuck do you mean?
No,
I got it.
The retainer is like an unhappy marriage, and it's this. You have to work with these. We're like the mistress. We come in and these guys are cool. We love them. They're so much fun, and we also do speak our minds and tell them when their brand is crap, and we're very honest. Where I think agencies are just yeah, just money. Just give us the money, and we'll do whatever you want. And no one's happy in that. Like the reason we started the Misfits was we were unhappy in the traditional ad agency network. I was ready to leave Dubai. The guys that started this thing didn't even know what it was. Like kudos to Nader and Asa because they won't pump themselves up. Nader was making silly videos on Instagram. Asa was like, this could be something I want to get into content. For the first 6 months, you guys were just trying to do like whatever, meeting people. But when you meet people and you have nothing to show, that's a hard sell. You're like, well, what are we going to do for us? And it was. And then I was like, I'm ready to leave, but I was helping the guys out, and they were like, look, we don't know if this is going to work. And I was like, it's the last roll of the dice for me in Dubai, so let's give it a shot. And it was that, all of us going into it with that, like, we've got nothing to lose. We can always leave if this doesn't work. But we have to stick to what we believe in. And because we came from agencies where we were being made make ads that we hated. We were on shoots that everyone involved was like, this is so crap. And we're like, well, and then the client is like, why aren't people sharing it? And you're like, because it's crap, and it's crap, and everyone knows it's crap, but you just won't say it's crap because you're following this guideline from this and this, and it's just that's what we tried to change, like, and we did change it.
I think that's
the point as well, because we had to, very early on, we gave so many like restrictions to ourselves where we're like, we'll only present the concept we want to do and we think is right. Whereas agencies have like 20 backup concepts and all of that. We're very vocal. We've like walked out of so many fucking meetings where it got rude, like we got rude, or like we haven't held back anything. They don't get to see, like, once the idea is sold in, the next thing they see is the finished campaign. They're not allowed to comment on the cast. They're not allowed to comment on the shoot. They don't come to our shoots. They don't do any of that. But getting very traditional brands, it was such a fucking mission to convince them to take that leap of faith or whatever in doing it.
At the beginning it was. After Visa's success in Careem, people like you said, Chris and Steve, people care about numbers. So when you guys first started, you had no numbers behind your nothing. But then, when I joined, 4 or 5 months into it, you had the Visa thing, and that was the door opener. So it was like, wait, that worked. That won an Effie. Oh, and then also then the Careem thing. Then they were like, get these guys in. Every brand wanted us in because it was like they want to recreate that. ROI or whatever you want to call it.
And I think the one thing that the Slingshot really did is it showed the world that you don't need all the money, because Lord knows we didn't have all the money. I'm joking. I'm sorry, man. I think it showed the world. No, dog, about you. No, I'm joking.
I'm still getting billed, huh? Inside joke, Steve. I'll tell you another time, and everyone on the podcast. We'll do it in the next episode.
So I think what it showed the world was, if the idea is strong enough and the message is right, you don't need the money, you don't need to be a big brand. It's gonna do what it's ought to do, And I think that's what was the most satisfying bit for at least all of us. That
I mean,
it's easy. It's not easy, but when you've got millions of dollars and you can blanket bomb the internet, just keep sponsoring posts, you'll reach awareness. You know what I mean? So we got people engaging. We got people actually sharing it and liking it and saying, "Screw that, we love this brand now." You know what I mean? For literally like a tenth of the budget of whatever any traditional brand would spend. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and zero media budget.
Zero media. So I think that's that was the key for the entire industry. Like that's why we got so many calls after that, going like, "Okay, come in." But I think part of our frustration was that the market still didn't understand what we actually achieved. Do you know what I mean? Like the brand manager.
No, but that's what I'm
like I said,
saying.
it was
Yeah.
never tracked. We don't know the true measurement of this. If we had the true measurements, we would have won the effectiveness line at Cannes, at fucking the links and everything. We're not really.
Yeah, but as a brand manager, if I see this team of marketeers who got together, really, you know, put their heads together and with minimal resources did this. You know what I mean?
But
Then you
it's-
gotta. Sorry, go on.
Sorry, man. It's just like in retrospect, I feel like we never packaged it properly. Like I don't think we've ever sat down and explained to people exactly what we did and how we did it. In
I think I
retrospect,
have, man.
I mean, like talking today and kind of reflecting on the whole process, like the whole like WhatsApp piece, the seeding piece, the you know native, the fuck the KPI, the that stuff, the you know the resolution of the video, the details that we went into that we today take for like super granted, the like unbrandedness, the you know all these things like oh the cliffhanger like Ross was saying and Steve was saying like is this guy alive, like all those things are amazing insights of the type of content and how you distribute content where I don't feel I've properly packaged into a recipe because if you pitch that to a big brand, they can't do that, even if they wanted to.
But that's part of the
So it's like, you know, it was like almost the perfect storm. That's what I'm saying. I think Misfits with Careem, where it was in its life cycle, with me not giving a shit, with you guys not giving a shit, it was almost like a perfect storm. Whereas if you went to like a big brand, if you went to Snickers and say, we're going to do a piece of content, we're going to natively drop it, it's not going to have any branding on it, and you know we're not going to measure any KPIs, and we're going to do this, and no way that's going to get any sign off. No way, right? So, and I think every piece, every ingredient there in that recipe needs to be there in order for the same type of success to happen, in my opinion. Like for social media virality, for any virality, it needs to be set free. It can't be paid. It can't be, right? So it's like, find a brand that's going to take the risk and produce something for, you know, $100,000 and then just drop it natively in WhatsApp and see what happens. No way.
You think that's going to change now with younger brand managers and the younger people taking over marketing and stuff? Do you think that's going to?
No, it's going to get worse. This is my personal opinion. Advertising has
gonna get
kind of going down because everything's analyzed now to a T. You've got people that will say Google need to tell you you have to have the subtitles on, and after 4 seconds, and Google say that, and that's in this is the data, and you've got all these. And you're like, no, wait, stop. Just let's go back to the idea first. No, Google say it, and you're like, oh my god. So everything is measured, everything is analyzed. No one's willing to do that. And
100% agree. 100% agree.
Based on like shit campaigns, when their traditional campaigns aren't working or getting results, and they have to pay for everything, they're coming out with these random shit that you're talking about, Ross. Like in 3 seconds you have to do this, show this, and it's not actually the right construct for it to do well. It's just for it to cheat the system. So if you have a shorter video, obviously your watch rate is going to go up, but it doesn't mean it's done its job of people getting the message and actually liking the campaign or anything. They're just cheating the stats.
I mean, straight up, the problem that every organization, at least that I've been a part of, has is that they're comparing apples and oranges, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
They're going to compare the branding team or the branding content to the performance for the digital market. And as long as I'm comparing these two things, which in their mind is apples and apples, unfortunately, like marketing leaders or organizational leaders, CEOs, executives, they have an arsenal of, let's say, weapons, and they look at the ones that are most effective according to the KPIs that they can measure, at least in the short term. And in the world that we live with today, where everything is super unstable and growth is the name of the game, is survival, basically, like strategic mindsets don't exist as much as they used to, right? So it's like, every organization I was ever a part of, even me on a day-to-day decision, I was leading digital marketing and I was leading branding. In my budgeting and my forecasting, the lion's share of any resource, be it creative or dollars for marketing or whatever, would go to performance marketing because I could track it, measure it, justify it, right? So it was like the amount of money we had to create this campaign versus the amount of money I was burning on performance marketing is not even comparable. But I could
Yeah,
get away with that because I could measure it. I could tell you, give me $1, I'll give you back 4. But in this type of content, I mean, and more, like this is getting worse and worse and worse. And to be honest with you, like digital marketing, if in my personal opinion, where I am in my career today, it's a scam, right? It's absolutely a scam, right? I have this debate with Steve and with brands that we serve today. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but if you only do that, and if 95% of your budget goes to digital marketing, you're not building a brand, you're not building a sustainable business. Turn that off, see what happens, right? How much of it is causality? How much of it is correlation? How much of it is actually like brand building or sustainable? How much of it is actually kind of, proving that you're actually building a good business? None of it, right? So I think, unfortunately, like unless branding goes back to being a dictatorship, unless organizations have that discipline, and I think there are groups, there are the big groups, like we're talking about Snickers and Nike and Burger King. Those guys have understood it, established it, they have their market share, they have the resources, they understand it, they understand the value of it because they've been doing it for decades. And the newer brands, and in brands today, I don't know, man. I don't like, especially
no,
now.
I think some of the, do you know Flipkart in India?
Flipkart, yeah, of course.
Flipkart, yeah.
I think they're doing it right. They've done branding, marketing.
But they've been around for a long time, right?
Sure.
And they also have like the lion's share of the market too, right? So they.
No, sure, I agree. But I think that there's hope. There are people still doing it. It's just, it's a river you got to cross, man. You have to convince them. You have to school your brands. The reason they need to come to people like us, all of us on this call, is because they shouldn't be able to do what we do, right? It's just a matter of getting them to believe and act on it. If we didn't need to convince Chris that the idea needs to be crazy. Chris knew that the idea has to be crazy. The reason Chris called us was because Chris knew this fact, right? He said, all right, it needs to be stupid. It needs to be, and these guys are doing it. I want to talk to these guys, We didn't need to convince you.
No. You could have showed me any concept, I would have gone for it, to be honest.
Do you know what I mean? Like so our job was made easier from the start. Like that convincing part that we have to do in a couple of meetings with other brands, where we go and school them and go like, no, look at this reach and look what happened here and look what happened after this. We don't have to do that with you. I still think, call me optimistic. I still think there's a few brands out there. You just have to find them.
Oh, there's definitely brands doing good stuff. It's just like, I think there's a lot of things wrong. I think the death of the traditional agency model is going to happen in the next few years. These big, huge WPPs that own all these one-stop solution, like we're coming in as specialists, let's say, in just video content, and we're taking that bit of money. Then you've got the Accentures and all those guys coming in taking consultancy money. Google AdWords is taking a huge amount of money. So the industry in itself is going, it's a $1 billion industry. It's going through a seismic shift over the last kind of 5 years. And the agency model is broken because awards now mean nothing other than scam and bollocks. So agencies want awards and they'll just do the bread and butter stuff for the brands. And there's a lack of trust between clients and agencies, a lot. So there's not a nice relationship. We had a good relationship with Chris, like you said. We were friends from the start, and we had that kind of unity. We were all on this. We were on that rocket ship together. Whether it failed or whether it succeeded, we were in it together. Whereas it's not that agency model of the client servicing or whatever you want to call it back in the day of actually getting to know your brand, getting to know this guy. It's not now. There's less money in it. The tech firms are taking a lot of the creative talent away. And
to your defense, by the way, to reinforce your point, our relationship came on the back of a failed relationship with an agency. So I mean, our relationship only really existed because of completely failed, distrustful relationship with the agency before that, of which the key figure in that organization also left that organization and started his own agency too. So I completely agree with you. I think it's a seismic shift, but I also think in my career, the structural strength of marketing leaders in organizations has been diluted over time, more and more and more. As performance marketing has taken over, I would say, kind of that media, and as these huge organizations, the Googles, the Facebook, the Twitters, and what have you, the kind of digital marketing media, less and less attention and focus has been given to branding, because to them it's like it's an instant gratification kind of I just put in money and I can see it, man. Like it gives me my revenue right away.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
less and less
Yeah.
power, more and more power has been taken out of the like marketing, creativity, the brand, and all that stuff because it's a gamble, right? It's absolutely a gamble, and we know it's a gamble. We saw the difference in some of the content, but that just meant that in the end, there's less trust in that and more trust in numbers, which I guess is a natural human kind of evolution. But over time,
Yeah, I was going to say
that's kind of what happened.
it's an evolution, and it's going to come full circle. It's got to, like for me, I look at the agency model, and I look at the way that there's always been that kind of back and forth between brands and agencies, and you've always said, oh, the agency model needs to evolve. It needs to evolve to cater. But then from an agency point of view, okay, well, give me access. And there's absolutely no way brands are going to just hand over that access to say, okay, let me help you improve. You're not going to provide that transparency and that clarity between the two. So it's kind of like, I see the agency model, I'm the same as you, Ross. The agency model needs to capitulate. It doesn't need just to evolve or reform. It needs to completely capitulate. Like it needs to hit rock bottom where it is fundamentally broken and then it is rebuilt. I think we've already started to see this, see that happen. I mean, Sorrel, to a large extent, has already started to, give that indication. As soon as he left, the entire group, the groups of agencies have to break up. So there will be that fragmentation. But if they break up and try to recluster, that's not going to help solve the problem either. It is rock bottom is required for that new wave of innovation, that new wave of creative talent, that new way of operating, and it's only then when we might start to see what that new world looks like, in my view.
Yeah,
in all fairness, what Chris was saying, I think part of our success has been the performance marketing guys. Performance love us, man. They love us because the results they get post the campaign that we've done on the same amount of money that they're investing into performance is just enormous. So it's just maybe Chris's point, it just maybe needs to be brought to the forefront and highlighted and packaged better. And that's because the performance guys will vouch for us, and that
it's so funny you say that. It's like, nowadays, obviously DUCKLIFE, our advisory, we try to give people advice based on our experience, right? That's kind of how we position ourselves. Like, we're not going to sell you consulting or tell you what best practice is, all this garbage. We're just going to let you leverage the experience, failures and successes that we've had and help you leverage that. And when people, like, we have a lot of customers that actually strategically want us to lead their marketing thinking and stuff like that, right? So not only help us build the brand, but tell us how do we run marketing, right? And it's funny now, the way we think about and the way we pitch kind of brand and marketing is we don't disassociate the two. They're one of the same. So when somebody tells us, okay, how much money do I spend in branding and how much marketing do I spend in digital? I'm like, they're the same thing. And that's what we're starting to realize is that somewhere along the line, somebody drew a line in the sand and said, this is branding and this is marketing, which is total fucking bullshit.
Absolutely, yeah.
It is. They're not disassociated. They're exactly the same thing, right? Like one is a kind of character, and the other one is basically like a structural mechanism to acquiring customers, but you need the character to do that piece, right? Like they're not different things. And organizations today have tried to be, outsmart their own selves, and they said we have a brand leader, and we have a marketing leader, and we have this guy, and we have that guy, and they've completely disassociated the two. So they say, how much do I spend in brand, in production, in content, and how much do I spend in performance marketing? And the way we kind of position that these days is we make sure organizations understand that they're absolutely the same thing. You cannot do a performance marketing campaign without branded content.
Yeah. So most of my success, in Pakistan, we got very busy, was because of the point you just highlighted, and it was after I got together with a performance marketing agency where we started pitching together. So I would come up with the creative and then we go and package it with the performance and pitch it. And it was because every time you did a campaign and then you did performance followed right after, the results were much, much better.
And it's so crazy how terminology can fuck everything up. Like just because one thing is called performance doesn't mean the other thing is non-performance. You know what I mean? Like it's like such a.
I thought this was going somewhere else.
Don't even fucking start me on that topic.
Yeah, and it's like, and it's crazy, right? It's like I mean, there was nothing more performing, in my opinion, than the Slingshot campaign and all the campaigns that Careem's done in its history. So in the last 4 years, if we would be able today to find a way to track, I'm sure there's going to be some technology at some point that will allow us to like recognize the video, and we'll just see how many people have seen anything resembling that. I'm sure if we were able to track it, there was probably nothing more powerful than that piece of content today. And I think fundamentally, somewhere along the line, somebody in the performance marketing world just attacked branding, you know, and the poor guy who was supposed to defend branding was caught with his pants down. You know what I mean? Like he had nothing to say, and I think that's unfortunately kind of like how organizations work, and because most brands today, especially now because of COVID, are forced to be digital brands.
Absolutely, all
right?
brands.
So it's like
All
branding
brands.
is associated to old school, right? And performance or digital marketing is associated to new school. So it's like this natural association. Oh, we're a digital brand now. We have to do performance marketing only. You know what I mean? So it's just a lack.
That's naturally going to evolve, though. I think that's.
I think so.
It just needs It just needs a bit of time. It will evolve into.
Yeah.
We've also, and I'm not going to name any names, like me and Nader at one meeting, like we did this campaign for a brand and did really well. And we were like, can we get the results? Because we like learning ourselves. And he's like, I can't give them to you, but I'll tell them to you or whatever. So I recorded them on my phone unknowingly. And he was basically saying, yeah, it's performed amazing here. It's done this, it's done that, amazing, really, really good. And then we were like, cool. So what about the follow-up campaigns? Like, nah, it's too expensive, so we won't go with you again. We were like, but you just said it performed really well. He's like, yeah, it has, yeah, but we're just going to go back and do some performance marketing and retargeting. We're like, okay, but you not want to ride the wave? Nah. It was like, okay, that makes no sense, but have a nice day. See you.
Yeah, I think that's where they're going wrong. You know, you gotta. It's all right if you don't want to go ahead right at that moment, but when you go back out with communication, I think you should invest and go back out again in the same tone of voice and the same style, because you know what worked. So
yeah, it's just not. No one's long term. The mentality is, it's not my brand. That's why it's nice working with startups. When you go into a startup and it's just the 2 owners or 3 owners, or whatever, and you're like, brilliant. This is going to be a lot easier. There isn't that layer of.
Yeah, but then they have no money.
So, yeah, I was about to say. So when are we going to work together?
So that's what you have to chew on right now. For now, at least, that startups don't have money. But if you pick up any of these massive successes, man, off the top of my head, like Think Different campaign for Apple, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, they paid for it out of pocket. You know what I mean? Like the company didn't want to do that campaign. They said, screw it, we'll do it. We'll pay for it, because we believe in it. At that point, Apple was an upcoming brand. It had, there was no branding. They were building it. So it is a natural evolution. It'll take time. The startup is like the new businesses coming in. I think that the Ubers and the Careems or the Deliveroo's and all are tomorrow's Nestle and Coke. And, you know what I mean? Just give them time to get there. They are the next Proctors.
Isn't the mentality of startups is to just grow, sell, take my check, run? You know what I mean? Is that
for now? Yeah, for now.
Therefore, why build a brand? I need to just build users and followers, whatever it might be.
But that's what I was gonna say. I feel like at least even in the middle of when we were doing the Slingshot, the last 10 years, a startup has never been incentivized to learn or do anything for its brand. That's not at all.
Sure, of course not.
Their focus at all. They don't understand it. They don't care to understand it. It doesn't, they're super focused on only one KPI, and that's revenue or user or what have you, right? So I don't think startups are really.
But I think that's what we're saying is missing, and that's what Misfits brings to the table, right? 0504545946. That's
Yeah, I think we're gonna censor that part out. But yeah, I was talking about it.
Yeah. No,
you're right.
To come up on screen.
Just a little scrolling, little dancing emojis. Contact us. Yeah, I think. Look, when you're working on growth, scale, more active users, and I understand it's for the funding, right? It's because the more active users you have, the better funding you can get. The better funding you get, the better you go to business and the better you market. It's all correlated. So at that point in life of a startup, it's hard, right? They're aggressively just trying to scale. I do think that after all this is settled, because it's a bit chaotic right now, after all this is settled and you've identified your key brands and leaders in each category, you know what I mean? Then look at Uber. I think Uber is doing it. I mean, if you look at Uber's communication anywhere, it has the same tone of voice. You pick up Egypt, Pakistan, GCC, you know, it's got similar sort of treatment to the visuals as well. It's got a similar style. So they are
honestly, top of mind, I can't think of one Uber ad or communication ever.
No,
I
sure,
know
sure,
they've done some crap
No.
that was people driving. That's about all.
I'm not saying they've done good marketing as yet, like anything that's been out of the box and creative. But what I'm saying is they are working on their branding. Do you know what I mean? They do maintain a certain brand personality.
Yeah, I mean, I think the argument,
safer playbook.
yeah, I think the argument that they have a very like consistent brand, I buy into. I think they're super consistent. I think they're super mature. I think they're super kind of dictatorship, etc. But it took them 3 tries, man. They rebranded.
Sure.
Right. So I think that came with the evolution of the maturity of the brand. If you look at the guy leading Uber right now, I mean, he's a super experienced guy, super disciplined. I mean, built brands before in his time. He understands the power of it. So he brought in that discipline, that maturity. But to Ross's point, and I think this is where we should probably kind of move off the conversation, by the way. I think when we look at the Middle East, right, and I've been a big advocate for this for a long time. You know, if we're actually gonna come out of being an emerging market, if we're gonna like inspire people, attract talents, do anything, we need to have fucking cool brands, right, from the region. Like when you're growing up in the region, I mean, who the hell do you look up to? What brands inspire you? It's not like I grew up and I was like, oh, I grew up inside. It's not like, oh, I wanna, Al Marai is amazing. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like there are not, I can't even count a few brands.
Barbican.
You know, maybe, but
but
still, like Emirates Airlines, maybe. But in terms of a brand with a cool tone of voice that's super, you know, innovative, inspiring, kind of speaks different, that speaks our kind of, you know, style or whatever. There's nothing. Like the Middle East is just dry, right? It's got no character. And for a second, there was, you know, maybe a little pocket of coolness coming out of Egypt and their content. For a second, there was maybe, you know, the stuff, you know, I think that was happening here with you guys and stuff like that. But there was never kind of like, you know, a rush of amazing brands that came out that represented this new generation, this cool generation, the up and coming, right? Like, I mean, all of us are here scratching our heads saying, you know, where are the cool brands? You know, I cannot for the life of me, even in Dubai, think of 5 brands that really resonate with me, that are cool, they're doing anything different. I can't.
Well, the world's changed since we did the Slingshot, man. It's gotten really sensitive and
it's
you know,
regressed,
chaotic,
man.
so.
It's regressed, right? Like we
It's
can't.
regressed, yes.
People are afraid of saying stuff. Content is super delicate. Like
Exactly.
it's super tough, right? But there's room. Look at Nike, man. Nike's killing it, right? Like really going for it. Like they're not.
But then you look at their agency relationship as well with Wyden and Kennedy, man, and that will tell you everything. They don't even shop around or look around. That's it. They're married together, man. Trust. They trust each other.
Yeah.
Wyden doesn't go around, you know, money grabbing and looking for every opportunity with every brand. They're happy with what they've got, you know. It takes time to build that relationship, you know, and hopefully, you know, we can get to do that as well. Because I have a lot of faith in the startup community, man. I think there's great brands coming out. I think, you know, if we can.
I just have no faith in the agency.
Yeah,
So we come in, dog, 050.
I mean,
It's because of marketing thing. I start holding up placards and stuff with my Instagram.
to pick up on Nader, your point earlier when you said we were rude, let's just say we're not rude, but we're very honest, and it's actually a breath of fresh air, like, because they're so used to clients just telling them what they want to hear, going outside, bitching about them, and everyone's on blah, blah, blah. But a lot of the 2 or 3 times we've absolutely refused to do something and, you know, just saying no and walked out, and it's come back. Like they actually appreciated that from us. They're like, oh no, do you know what? You're right. We stepped back. We thought about it. You guys are right. Do what you said, because they're not used to getting that pushback. You know what I mean? If everyone's if you're instructed to do something wrong, you know, no matter what you do with it, it's not going to be right. It's always going to be wrong.
Yeah.
So that's the problem at the moment. Everyone's just pushing around the kind of onus of blame, and no one's taking. And that's what is good about startups. You have, like, you know, we did some cool stuff with the Washman guys originally. You know, shout out to them.
Absolutely.
And they were just like, yeah, we're the decision makers. Cool, let's do it. And we were like, it's a much cooler and easier process. But there is a lack of trust, and I get it. I've worked in agencies. Agencies are all over the place. You know, we're one, and you have the digital department upstairs. They don't even work with you on the idea, and then you've got this department here, and you're going in as like, we're just one agency. We're so amazing. We're on the same page, and you're
I
not.
have like 20 people, fucking 150 slides, and they'll change everything to get the project in. They'll do whatever it is. Oh, you need fucking laundry? Yeah, we'll do that as well. They'll take on as much and change everything. What Ross was saying, the ones we walked up, those were approved. They were just changing like lines or getting involved in like small details that we didn't agree with, to the point where we pulled out from the full project.
But they do realize, I think there's a lot of brands realizing that they need to give the control to the agency to a high degree in order to get success. I think there's a lot of brands, startups even, that are realizing that. You just have to find yours, right?
Brands
Yes.
and agencies need to evolve and change with this, right? It's not just on the agencies to kind of shift.
No,
It's up
definitely.
to the marketers and the brands and the people in the organization. We need
100%.
that grit and fight back in the marketing world.
So,
Fuck it, which way that you operate.
so on that note, what are you guys doing next? What's coming?
Look,
I can't say because it's illegal to say what I'm going to do next. No, I'm joking.
Shut up, Lisa.
So what I'm about to do is
no, the landscape's completely changed now, obviously, with like what's going on and stuff. And understandably, they're not looking, priority isn't awareness campaigns and brand shit. They went into like kind of reactive mode where they went, we need to do safety messages, we just want content, and they're all putting out the same shit. Some of it's not even linked to the brand. You have like a fucking sugar drink telling you to stay home, when it's like, why the fuck they're just riding on the same shit everyone's doing. And the nature of like kind of economically what's happening, there's so much fucking competition, so many brands, so many agencies right now in the like region, that they're just doing anything the like brand wants to do, they're doing it in-house, and they're taking like tiny budgets to do all this shit. So for us, I think it was like, it's not even worth, we don't want to be doing any of that tactical stuff. We only want to work on stuff we believe in. So we've happily like come to terms with it and said, look, we're pulling out until the right campaign comes in. It's pointless like trying to survive off this, like these seeds and shit. So we're just taking this time, and we're, like I was telling you earlier, Chris, so that we kind of moved into, we're using this time to try and get into stuff that we don't have that much experience in, but trying to build the experience.
like and stuff.
I'm gonna put your phone number up this time. And your email and your GPS location.
I think like, yeah, like Nader is saying, like, we're not going aggressive with the brands and trying to school them every day, because that gets exhausting and frustrating for us as well. So we're kind of testing the waters. If we meet a brand and they get it, then great, it's a success. If we meet a brand and they're all about performance, and I'm sorry to throw this word around so much, but that's what it is right now. Everybody's just running after performance marketing, right? If we meet the brand and they're more hell-bent on performance and measuring the ROI on the campaign, then we're like, you obviously don't see what we're doing here. And that's just going to turn sour, right? Because
it got so competitive because of how many people are out there, and they don't see the value right now with the concepts and ideas. So even when we've gotten briefs or they've approved stuff, and then they go, oh, no, there's like 6 other agencies and production houses. This is the budget based off of what they've asked for. And we're like, the idea we have doesn't even fit that. You never even told us that at the start. So personally, I think the market's going to get fucked in the next 6 months because they're all taking on all this shit.
It's the short term, yes.
Be here when everyone starts dropping off, just still be around. And when the right projects come in, and we'll take on the campaigns. But for now, we're focused on the stuff.
Yeah, like it's like, you know, you have to make light of every situation. So essentially the world went on pause for us. We had a really big campaign that was not far off getting approved, that would have set us up. It was brilliant, all good, and then coronavirus hit. And at the start, we were wrecking our own heads trying to find business, and it was like Nader said, there was these like, here, can you do a safety video for pennies, like pennies? And that's, our morals were tested now, because we always said, no, we won't just do stuff for money. But when the money stops coming in, you're like, maybe we should do this, we need the money. But we said, no, we're going to use this time to try into more like TV show writing, movies, shorts, because that's what it's very rare in your professional life you're given a block of time to actually pursue what you really want to do. Do you know what I mean? Like, we know, like, creatives and what we do, we have a shelf life. You can't be 59 going in, hey guys, I got a TikTok video for you, you know, to young brand managers. It's a very ageist industry. So we've always had, we need a plan B to get out of here. So this has just given us a 2-month block to not worry about things, to not have to answer to all these calls and emails and try and go out and pitch for business, and just go, right, if we want to write TV shows, me and Nader, we've all been saying, let's do TV shows. We did this thing called The Intern for just shits and giggles up on the thing. And we're like, there's something in this, you know, it's branded content. We want to try it. So there's lots of stuff that we've had on the wall as ideas. And now we're like, yeah, let's use this time. Because who knows, you know?
I think to sum it up, we're using this time to enhance our skills, basically. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rather than chasing performance campaigns and doing tactical campaigns, which does nothing for us, you know, psychologically or emotionally as well. So we're avoiding that, and we're just going for like creative campaigns if they come along. Other than that, yeah, we just do our own stuff, you know. And I'd say I've had better, you know, the Pakistan offices have better response, because there's a lot of young brands that come up and they want to be risky, and they understand. And Pakistan's a funny place like Egypt, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
they really digest humor very well. So they want to do like piss takes and songs and stuff. So it's a bit better, because every now and then there's a campaign you go like, you know what, I'll do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if it's wasting your time and energy on just doing a tactical campaign that's gonna go nowhere, we're fairly new as well, right? We're like 3 or 4 years old. We have a very good portfolio and very good, you know, God's been very kind to us, man. We've got great results on most of our campaigns. But, you know, we still want to build more on it. So we want to still do good campaigns, you know, for a few years before we hang up the gloves. So, yeah.
Cool. I think a lot of people are having those kind of reflections, to be honest. I think Steve and I we have a session this week where we're going to sit down and decide, do we just keep making, you know, money and getting more clients, or do we start to work on more of our passion stuff and staying true to who we are and what we want to do? I think that's kind of like a natural kind of position that a lot of people are in. If you have the privilege, you know, to be in that position, because bottom line, you have to be privileged to have that, you know, capability to kind of even begin with, right? But yeah, I completely respect that. I can't wait to see what you guys, you know, work on. And I sincerely hope that the perfect storm happens again. And maybe it won't be Elon Musk, maybe it'll be Donald Trump that could post it for us next time. But who knows?
Rest assured, we'll try, man. Rest assured, we'll keep trying.
But only because he has the most Twitter followers in the world. So, but anyways.
That's where he spends 95% of his time as well, right? Instead of running
that and being a president, yeah. But guys, I really, really appreciate it. It's been a long time coming. Great catch up. I don't think I've been with all 3 of you on a call or even together in the same conversation for
3 years. So yeah.
3 years. But really good to have you guys on. Thanks a lot for coming on the show. Great catch up, and we're gonna post this, and we're gonna censor everybody except Issa, and we'll see how that goes.
I'm dropping gems here, man. I'm dropping gems.
But thanks a lot, guys. Really
appreciate it. Guys. It's been a pleasure.
And
Steve,
and personally, I super appreciate you guys too, man. You guys really helped me a lot, and I hope you guys feel the same way. But I really appreciate it.
We do, man. It's been good times.
Thanks, man. And Issa, I'll pay that bill, bro.
In can.
All right, guys. Have a great day.
Guys.
Ciao.